Alright, guys. A few days ago, I matched against a player who was 300 rating points above me. I am currently at around 1900, while my opponent was more than 2200 rated. I was extremely excited for the game since it's a great opportunity for you to improve your skills against a higher rated player. But right off the bat, I knew that it would be very difficult to beat him since he's like more than 300 points higher than me, as well as for the fact that I'm playing with black. So, but I was ready to give it my best shot. Let's see how it goes. So he starts with d4, and I open with d5. This is my standard move when I play against d4. I want to keep the structure symmetrical. I play something which is called Tarrasch defense. And please let me know if you want to make if you want me to make another video on Tarrasch defense. I think it's a good opening for like beginners and intermediates to play. It enables you to develop your pieces quickly, control the center a little bit. So I think it's all in all a decent opening. He continues with c4. This is Queen's Gambit. A Queen's Gambit line. Basically, if you take this pawn, you enter a Queen's Gambit accepted line. If you don't, like I do here, it's a Queen's Gambit declined line. Okay. Knight to f3. All very standard moves. c5. You push the pawn in front of your bishop, so that when you develop your knight develops behind the pawn rather than in front of the pawn, blocking the development of the pawn. He takes, I take. This is very standard. Then he opens with g3. He will like to put the bishop here, pressuring this entire diagonal. It's a very common idea. c6, bishop to g2, knight to f6, all developing moves, castles. I take here, which is not the best move according to the computer. What I wanted to do is to play bishop to e7. And then what white typically does is white captures here, and then you move your bishop again. So it basically a loss of a tempo. So to prevent that, I wanted to capture the pawn right away. That's what I did, but it is apparently not that good. Something to keep in mind for future games. So he takes with the knight. I develop my bishop, getting ready to castle. He develops his other knight. I castle. He brings his bishop out. This is a little bit of a strange move. A lot of times I've seen when I analyze games from the white side, because I also play d4 as white, that the computer sometimes suggests to play bishop to e3 move. Why it is counterintuitive? Because it kind of prevents your e-pawn to jump into the center or to challenge the center. That's why I always feel that this is a little bit of a tricky move, right? It's not very easy for everyone to spot and play properly. I bring out my bishop. The bishop comes out. He attacks the bishop. I always thought that he might do that. And my idea at that point in time was to just retreat the bishop here, and challenge this entire diagonal on the queen side, right? So I think this is a good spot for the bishop to be at. So I retreat it. The computer does not like it. He wants me to put the bishop on this particular square, which is an interesting idea, because if I put it here, he can take my bishop. So I give away my bishop pair advantage, but at least I solidify my weak central isolated pawn with another pawn, and I open my rook up. So strategically, it's a learning, right? So you can understand what the computer is suggesting and why it is suggesting. So the computer thinks that more than the bishop pair advantage, this open rook and this protected pawn in the center instead of an isolated pawn is better for you. I wanted to keep my bishop pair advantage. That is, my strategic understanding always is to keep the bishop pair advantage. He brings his queen out. A very good move again. What he's planning to do is to bring one of the rooks in here, right? and make sure that he can pressure my queen here, right? So again, a very interesting idea, very methodical idea actually. So I bring my rook up because this is an open file once the knights move out of the way, and the computer thinks this is the best move. He brings his rook. Again, this is a very principled approach. Look, he brings his rook to the file where my queen is, right? He does not bring this rook. You know why? Because his intention is to bring this rook here, right? So he has understood the purpose that each of his rooks should should take up, right? So this rook is for pressurizing the queen. This rook is to occupy or challenge this open file that I have. If he brought this rook here, then my authority on this file is cannot be challenged at this point in time, right? So this is also like the best move in this position, pressurizing my queen. So I just retreat my bishop back, and that is the best move according to the computer. I'm also, trying to threaten at some point in time this skewer between the. Right now, it is protected by multiple things, so it's not an idea that I can do right away. But some point, maybe I can, take this knight, and if sometimes later on this knight moves out of the way somewhere, uh, here say, then this is always an opportunity, because at that point in time my rook will protect this square and these two will be skewered. So that's something that I was thinking about. It was not coming in the near future. And now he started pressuring. You see, he brought the other rook to the open file. That's exactly what I thought will happen. So at this point in time, I brought my queen up, which was an inaccuracy. I also thought that maybe putting the queen here and bringing the rook below it is a good idea. I was waiting for what my opponent was trying to do. So I put my queen up. That's this point in time, you can see the computer evaluation. It's a 2.4 evaluation for my opponent. So it's tough. At this point in time, I got shot by a brilliant move. Knight takes d5. I take back. But now maybe you can start looking at this idea. So if the bishop takes, and I take with my other piece which is protecting this pawn, which is the queen, then this knight can take, and I have a discover attack on my queen. So let me show you this line. If he takes, I take, there is a discover attack on my queen, right? So that's one way. What he did is also extremely good. Look at this. It's knight takes c6, so he takes the knight with another knight. No hurry to capture his material back. Now, if I take this with the pawn, right? Say if I take this with the pawn. So he can just take my knight with his bishop, and I can't take back with my pawn because my queen is hanging, right? So the small queen move that I did here, this small queen move, that has proved fatal in this combination, right? So because right now my queen is unprotected, so his queen can take my queen, right? So the next move that I did here, trying to be a little clever, was rook takes, because I thought that, look, if you take with my, so I thought that if he takes with his bishop here, I can just put my rook behind like this, right? And I'll protect my queen. So if the queen takes, I protect my queen. But I also saw the fact that his bishop at that point in time can give a discovered check and pick my rook up. So it's an extremely complicated line, which I thought at that point in time really impressive for my opponent to find, right? So he took my queen, I took back with the rook, the bishop takes and gives a discovered attack, I get the bishop, and he gets my rook, right? So if you look at this position, uh, he's +4 up. So there's an exchange that he has, and he has two extra pawns on the king side, right? So it's, of course, it's completely winning for my opponent, but I don't typically, give up, don't typically resign positions like this. So I kept playing at this point in time. He gave me a check. I went back, takes with the rook, king takes back, and now he's free. He just protects his pawn here. He doesn't give me any opportunity. He could have actually taken this pawn, what I thought, and this pawn is already protected. But for some reason, he thought of pushing this and protecting it rather than taking it. So there is no opportunity that I have. Absolutely, he takes. I take the pawn here. He takes, and now he has two passed pawns which can just simply roll. So I start attacking some of these pawns. He brings his bishop up, uh, and he starts pushing his passed pawns, trying to do something or the other with my bishop. Here I'm attacking his backward pawns again, but he can very easily protect it. I give a check, trying to dislocate his king and take that pawn up. But of course, he has no obligation to move his king too far away from those pawns. So I keep checking him a little bit. He keeps pushing his passed pawn. He's giving me absolutely no chance. And look at the move here. So I'm trying to, again, protect this square using my bishop, but that's a mistake. He just gets his rook in between my king and the bishop. I move my king. He takes the bishop, and at this point in time, I resign because I didn't think at this point in time that I had much no options left. So he absolutely thrashed me, right? That's the best way to put it. There is some learnings that I can obviously take, because I played an opening that I always play against d4. I played the Tarrasch line. He played the Tarrasch line for a long time. So there is a lot of things that I learned from that particular opening sequence that I could have done better. Uh, but when I was analyzing this, right, so this is now how the story ends, right? When I was analyzing this, one thing I noticed was that it's a 30-minute game, right? People who have seen my videos before know that I typically play 30-minute games, 30 plus 0. So it is a long game. So you have a lot of opportunity to think, right? So you need not play your moves very fast, right? Even if you see the best move, it's you can always like double check, triple check to make sure that your moves are absolutely correct, especially if you're making some sacrifices and all, right? And that entire sequence that he played with knight takes d5. Let me quickly move to that position. Yeah, and the entire sequence that he played here with knight takes on d5 is pretty complex. So you know how much time it took to play that move? I'll pause my video for you guys to guess, right? He took 24 seconds. He had no reason to play that move in 24 seconds. It's a 30-minute game, guys. So people who play like 5-minute, 3-minute, 10-minute games, for them, 24 seconds is a decent amount of time. But for somebody who's playing a 30-minute game, if you have found a sequence that is probably going to give you or win you the game, right? You can afford to spend 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes in that particular move, right? Because once you have a sizable advantage in the game, it is very easy for you to make the moves, right? So there is no reason for somebody to play a move which is completely winning for him, but is a sacrificial move. It's a complex move to play that in 24 seconds. But I saw that and I saw the rest of the game. So for me, it's a 30-minute game. When the game ended and I resigned, I had 5 minutes on my clock. This guy had around 22, 23 minutes on his clock, right? But at that point, also, I was thinking that maybe it was not a very sharp game for this guy. He's 300 rating points above me. So I genuinely thought that he's just very strong, right? So I sent him a friend request. I told him that, buddy, it will be great if we can play a few practice games together, and stay in touch, right? And that's how I ended that day. I was thinking about analyzing the game the next day a little deeper. Um, Although there was a little bit of a suspicion in my mind, given that he played those moves so quickly, but my overall sentiment was that he was extremely strong. So the next day, when I opened my chess.com account, I saw that my rating points have been reverted. So that point in time, I quickly got a sense that this guy must have been cheating. The points that I lost yesterday was because of this game, which I probably lost against somebody who was cheating. So yeah, I mean it's tough, right? So for people like us who have a job, and also like people who are students who make time for chess, right? It's a hobby for them. They make a small amount of time during the day to play some chess, and they end up spending 30, 40 minutes of their time that they have by playing against somebody who is just using the computer. It's unfortunate, right? And that's the bane of online chess. Online chess is great on multiple occasions. Like I get to play so many of you guys that I would have never been able to play over the board through online chess. I get to improve, and pursue this hobby of mine, which is very near and dear to me. But then, you time and again, you will face some of these situations as well, where you waste time playing somebody who is just cheating. So yeah, that's how I'll end it. I hope that none of my viewers ever think about cheating in their games, and keep the community as clean as possible, guys. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye bye.